Welcome back to Second Breakfast and our ongoing TV discussions, bringing you the best thoughts, theories, and literary analysis this side of Chicago, Illinois.
In this episode, Cam will be presenting a theory about the bear's unique navigation of grief. Let's get into it.
All right, so we finally caught up on The Bear. We've watched seasons 1 and 2 a couple of years ago, and we loved them.
Yeah.
And we finally caught up on 3 and 4. And we binged these, which is my preferred way of consuming television.
Absolutely.
And because we watched so many episodes of this show, I mean, functionally half of the show as it exists in this moment, as of recording, because we watched so much of the show in such a concentrated time, I feel like we kind of saw the Matrix. We noticed some patterns that if you had divvied it up over a longer stretch, maybe we wouldn't have seen. So I wanted to take a second today and talk about one of the most striking and effective recurring events through all 4 seasons of The Bear. And I think I'm going to argue that this is the original sin of the series. It's the death of Mikey Berzatto, as portrayed beautifully by the always fantastic Jon Bernthal.
He's so good. Can you clarify what you mean by original sin, just to help make sure we're on the same page?
That's exactly where I was going.
Okay.
What a beautiful transition. A segue for the ages.
It's almost like we've been doing this for a long time.
So yeah, Mikey is working at The Beef, which is the sandwich shop at the beginning of the show. He dies of suicide before the series starts. Yes. And that becomes the inciting incident where his brother Carmen then comes home and starts working at The Beef instead of at all of these fancy pants, 5-star amazing restaurants. So his death starts before the series and I think arguably causes the series to start. It becomes the inciting incident, this messy homecoming for Carmy. But the interesting thing is that Jon Bernthal's in the show, that he appears regularly through the rest of all 4 seasons in these gut punch flashbacks.
I mean, this show does so many things so well, but one of my favorite things that they do well is flashbacks. Like, they're done so beautifully in a way that doesn't feel overdone or overindulgent or saccharine. Like, instead they just punch you in the gut so deeply. And I think part of the reason that works so well is Jon Bernthal's performance as Mikey. He's so heartbreaking and interesting and complicated. He does a really good job with pretty limited screen time.
And this idea is something we've seen before. If you think of 6 Feet Under, the dad dies in the pilot and he's there on and off through the rest of the show, but he appears to people almost like a vision or a thought experiment where he just kind of walks into frame and it's them working through something in their brain. And you see the version of the dad that pops up to all of these different characters is different based on their relationship with him. So it's more meditative. It's more about their individual growth and development than it is really about the dad at all.
Right. There are hardly any flashbacks. It's more about just, this metaphorical playing around with it.
But the way Mikey shows up in The Bear, it always feels instrumental in forming some relationship. I'm thinking about the Tina episode season 4, or some essential plot point that brought things to be the way they are. Every time he shows up in the show, it's devastating. There's a sense of tragedy. It's doomed. He feels like such a beautifully rendered tragic character, and there's such resonance with every time we see him. And I wanted to bring this incredibly effective bit of television into our frame of grief art that we've talked about so many times before, that perspective. And the question, the way I want to phrase the question, and I spent some time on this to not kind of trip over myself here, is what is the narrative effect of this repetition, of the many deaths of this character?
For me, I think it, and maybe this is cheating because I think Iowetta Berry's character, Sid, kind of says this out loud in the finale of season 4. But I think what it is all of these characters, Carmy, Cousin, I mean, even Richie. I can never remember his name, so I call him Cousin, Richie, Tina, Natalie. I mean, everybody is constantly trying to work through their grief over Mikey. And none of them really have. None of them really know how to. And so the fact that we see him so much is because these characters are reflecting on and meditating and dwelling on the loss of Mikey as well. And so rather than it just being like, because another kind of show could have been, this is a shortcut for us to tell more of this story because we can't just exposition this in dialogue. We want to make sure we the visitor, Maggie. I work in a museum. Sorry. So I talk about people a lot as visitors.
And art.
I'm so sorry.
That's very funny.
The viewer.
Just eyes rolling back, going into professional mode.
Genuinely. The viewer, needs to understand the plot. It's not about plot. Usually when we're seeing a flashback with Mikey, it's not to understand plot. It's to understand character, more specifically, the person who's thinking about Mikey. So like the Tina episode, for example, that flashback with Mikey helps us understand Tina and who she is and how she got here and what she's gone through. And it's like that with everybody else. So I think it's about everybody else continuing to grieve Mikey and not knowing how to move past it. That's how it feels for me.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. My first impulse here was that it was about memory. And I don't think we've talked about this much in the frame of grief art, the pain of memory within the grieving process, because the person that you lost is still alive in your mind.
Yes.
When you roll the tape in your brain of any sort of, especially there's so many holidays, so many familial memories where we see Mikey pop up again. He's, very much alive in those memories. Millennials, we just can't.
Every time
Harry Potter's baked into the DNA.
You got to fit it in there somewhere always, yeah.
But you're right, it's especially relevant in the restaurant because Mikey spent so much of his time there.
Mm-hmm. And it was his restaurant.
Exactly, yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. So those memories constantly, they're unavoidable within this physical space. We've talked about cross-sensory memory and how often you smell something and it takes you back to a memory that you couldn't have recalled a moment ago. All of those triggers are in the restaurant. So these people coming back to the restaurant every day, as they move through the grieving process every day, those memories constantly reopen this wound. And I think the show increasingly asks the question of, is that good or bad? Are those nice reminders, or does that mean that none of these people ever heal from the original sin of this series? Because the effect of these memories are to usually ruin characters and their day. Yeah. It's almost like the memories resurrect the character before, once the flashback fades out again, reality kills them.
Yes, yeah. These memories that people flash back to are never like, oh, that's a nice memory. It's more of a like, I'm like, oh, he's dead all over again. Like that's often how it feels. I mean, maybe there's a moment or two where, someone just kind of sees a picture of Mikey and smiles kind of sadly, but it's nice. But for the most part, especially when we're actually seeing Jon Bernthal, acting on screen, it's devastating. It's not a nice, happy memory. Even if it is a good memory of Mikey, the coming back to reality is devastating and tragic.
And I feel like at the beginning of the show, it's usually longer sections of Jon Bernthal being there. So you can there's a swell and then a fade where you can process the resurrection and the death. But I think it becomes more brutal, more painful, more sharp as the series progresses, where you get these flashes of memory. These fragments, sometimes they're silent cutaways to just 1 second of his face doing something in a moment that we recognize because we've seen the scene before, but you don't hear him. You don't get the whole scene. It's just these flashes. And I think that's an underrated, I don't mean qualitatively, I just mean underrepresented form of grief.
Right. Because,
as far as artistic portrayal.
Because that's how you remember things. You don't sit back and remember a full 30-minute scene.
Right.
I mean, an episode like Fishes is a wonderfully effective episode. And I love that it's a full episode flashback. It's an hour-long flashback. And it's a beautiful episode. And, it's excellent. But often when we're remembering people, we don't remember full scenes in our head. We remember moments, flashes, images, single sounds. Like it's usually isolated things and it's not a full-blown scene. So that makes total sense. And those are the ones that like feel so much more painful because it's so sudden. It's so oof, it just kind of all of a sudden hits you in the face and it's quick, but it's really devastating.
And this is, I want to kind of zoom out and broaden the discussion because I think this is the narrative effect of this repetition. Mm-hmm. Watching seasons 3 and 4 back to back, first of all, I thought they were as good as season 1 and 2, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
It made me realize how much of this show feels like it's about death. And yes, we spent, between our 1.5 year long discussions about The Witcher and another 1.5 year about Game of Thrones, we've spent the grand majority of this show talking about death. And I think this show, the Bear, not our show, I think it continues that discussion. And I broke down a couple kind of forms of that I spitballed from these 2 seasons.
Oh, okay.
I think the show is about the death of loved ones. Obviously, Mikey's the first one there. But as the show progresses, obviously time passes and more people die. You've got Marcus's mom. And that is such a long, it's a slow burn.
It's drawn
That's
out.
That's a difficult loss. And then in season 4, you almost lose Sydney's dad.
Oh, yes.
But that still becomes the majority of the meat of her plot line.
And we learn in season 2 that her mom died when she was young. Exactly. And that continues to come back and be part of her story. Yeah.
So it's about the death of loved ones. It's also about, I think, the death of family. I think so much of the show, we've done such great work with Donna, with Jamie Lee Curtis, where this character, the first time you really get to know her, which is in Fishes.
It is, yeah.
She is the villain. She's the problem. In a family full of messy problem people, she's the biggest one.
Yes.
And then as time passes and we see more of her in real time and the wounded, the pain, the mental illness, everything she's struggling through, there's more and more humanity. I think the show admirably refuses to cast her as a villain. But there's this sense that the messy kind of, even when it was a horrible mess, it was still a united force. I feel like that family is broken by the time, especially we hit season 4, where we are meeting Donna in exile. Carmy is going to her house. Sugar is inviting her to the hospital, and she's coming off the bench, where she hasn't been an active part of the family in a long time. All of those infamous gatherings, the number of funerals that we have, that we go back to, that we revisit so often, the weddings that we have, and not everyone's invited. This death of family is another kind of open wound throughout the course of the show.
And it's like a found family thing too, right? Because of course the restaurant is its own family. And what I like about this show is that there are no clear lines or divides of who's in the family and who's not. Because obviously Richie, cousin, is not really their cousin, but we never really explore how he's connected to the family because it doesn't matter. Even in the Fishes episode, you really have no idea who's related to who, and how, but it really doesn't matter because they're all this family. And so the restaurant itself is a family, and the fact that Mikey has died is not just they lost a loved one, but it's the family of the beef no longer exists. That family unit has been taken apart and it's been changed. Yeah.
And even characters who are technically still alive, like Donna, are not really part of the family anymore. So you have the death of loved ones as individuals, and then in the collective sense, you have the death of this family unit.
Yes.
And then there's this third type of death. And this is maybe the most existential and character focused for your interest always. It's the death of purpose and passion. So much of season 4 is about Carmy's anxiety, whether or not he can be okay and go through the normal movements of life. And I guess we've already done spoilers, but we're going to do them more now. When he announces this possible retirement at the end of season 4, where he's going to leave the restaurant, that is another form of death that we're talking about, where he's leaving this family, he's leaving all of these memories of Mikey, and then he's going to be alone without his sense of mission. Throughout the show, everyone has admired him for being the only person they've ever met who knows exactly what they're going to want to do and then did it.
Right, yeah.
So there's another form of death here on this character purpose level.
And that choice kind of feels like about sort of the fear of the death of himself, like as a person, not as a human, not physically, but sort of he doesn't really know who he is without being a chef, and he doesn't really know who he wants to be. And I feel like everybody has sort of decided what his identity was a long time ago when he was a kid, and he's been going with that because he's really good at it and probably used to like it. And now that part of him has died, but he's worried that it's killing the other part. Do you know what I'm saying? So he's trying to figure out how to live and not sort of be dead inside while doing all of this.
And I love that this revelation, this idea of his retirement from the restaurant, which is all of these different kinds of deaths kind of rolled into one, that this happens at the end of season 4 during the argument he has with Richie. Which is also all about Mikey's death, and specifically his funeral. Because you see the blow up through the fridge door at the end of season 2. Then, from that point on, Richie and Carmy do not have a meaningful conversation for 2 seasons.
No,
until we get to this blow up at the end of 4, where he says he's going to retire.
Right.
And that almost feels like an extension of this conversation about death. Because for all the flashbacks and moments and resurrections and deaths that we've seen of Mikey, we've never seen any moments close to his suicide.
I know, that's really true. And I also don't even know if they have talked about like how he dies. Like no one really, like that's because that's not really the point, but we don't see Mikey, like they talk a lot about Mikey struggling. No one knew how to be there for him, but we don't really see Mikey. We never see him on his own. We only see him around people, around our living characters.
Right. We don't see him struggling in that way. To the point where it feels like, and it's so fractal because these people don't talk about things unless they have to and someone's going to die.
And not directly, yeah.
But it feels like no one character in the show really knows what happened or why.
Right. And they're all trying to figure it out, but they don't know how to ask it and they don't know how to understand it.
And if that is the original sin, if that is the thing we keep going back to is Mikey's death, I think that almost contextualizes Carmy's retirement announcement at the end of season 4. Because he's so listless. He is so unmoored from his relationships, his family, his friends, and increasingly his sense of purpose and his role at the restaurant through season 4. He's kind of detaching from every element of his life. I'm not doing a Faustus thing, but it reminded me of the way we've discussed Dr. Faustus as a suicide play, where it's this man voluntarily giving up his soul and the rest of his life. I feel like Carmy, the way there's this drama over the DocuSign through seasons 3 and 4, and him taking himself off of like the deed to the restaurant, I feel like it's kind of him giving away his possessions.
Yeah, I see that.
And he's almost staging this suicide or death of this life that he's created for himself, where he's taking himself out of the running of being a chef, where he's arguably one of the best chefs in the world, and he's removing himself from working with his only remaining sibling and his cousin/brother in Richie,
right?
And the rest of the facts are all kind of family to him,
and Sydney, who's like one of his best friends. Yeah.
So there's kind of a death or suicidal feeling to a lot of Carmy's actions, and I don't know how conscious any of that is. But I think it's part of this seeking. I think it's part of this navigation of grief, where if I just said none of these characters seem to really understand why Mikey committed suicide, I think a lot of season 4 for Carmy is almost him restaging that suicide within his own life to help him understand why Mikey did it. Honestly, it's the same way that Richie spends so much of the season toiling away in that notebook, trying to write the one ultimate, perfect, rousing speech that will rally everyone in the restaurant as it faces this death in the form of closure. In the same way that I'm sure he's subconsciously trying to figure out what he could have said to Mikey that would have kept him from dying.
I was going to say, because, I mean, it seems like with Mikey, his death came as a surprise to people. I mean, of course, then you look back and you think, oh, I should have been there for him, like everybody does. But it doesn't seem like it was obviously imminent. Like with most people who commit suicide, you don't see it coming, right? And so the same thing's happening here when Carmy says he wants to leave the restaurant. They're like, what are you talking about? It blindsides them. We as the viewer are a little surprised, but not as much, because we've seen Carmy struggling massively. I mean, through the whole series, but especially through season 4, we can see him really losing himself through it. And so, but it catches the people in his life off guard, the way that Mikey's death also did. So I totally see that. That's interesting. So yeah, the idea of Carmy sort of trying to work it out and not redo it literally, but redo it figuratively is really interesting.
I think this increasingly existential kind of meandering for Carmy is him still meditating and grappling with that original sin of the series, because any of those 3 types of death, the death of loved ones, the death of family, or now the death of purpose, Mikey is at the heart of all 3 of those. Whether he's the catalyst, he's the linchpin, increasingly he's the uncomfortable metaphor for so much of the other character work in this series. He is the focal point of this show. He's not the main character, he's not the lead, but he is the messy, perfect prism for this series-long grindstone.
Definitely. And I think Carmy's, this metaphorical journey he's going on that you've laid out, I don't think he's conscious of that per se. Because he frames it as, I'm trying to make this stuff better. I'm realizing that this is not good for me, or I am not good for this restaurant. I'm realizing you, Sydney, are better at this than I am. I'm realizing that you, Richie, don't need me here anymore, and that I actually make your life worse. Like, he views it as he's trying to improve himself and improve the restaurant. But in reality, it could also be him sort of trying to explore and understand his brother.
I think it's a great thing to have a lead character of a show that is so rapturously interested in character become increasingly unself-aware. I think the show around Carmy has done so much work, specifically in seasons 3 and 4, to draw endless parallels between Carmy and Donna.
Yes, absolutely.
If you look at all of the mental illnesses across this family, I think those two are on the closest parallel tracks, where they can't seem to control their actions and their sadness, all of these other profound, immeasurable feelings. They're almost a victim to these impulses.
And they end up really hurting the people around them.
And they don't understand what they're doing or why they're doing it. There's this fear at their own emotions, to the point that Carmy in season 4 says the thing he's most afraid of is peace or order. I think they're really drawing parallels there. And I love that it's a show about self-discovery that's not about characters becoming more emotionally intelligent. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, they don't all go to therapy and they're all fine.
Because that would feel too easy. That would feel too fantastical. There is no real solution to this type of problem.
Right.
But I love that there is more nuance. There is more effort and human connection and beauty. Every time one of the characters does the rubbing the fist on the chest thing, that is such a clumsy but good-hearted reaching out to another person. And I think if the show became easy or simple or resolved, how many times have you and I critiqued emotional validation as being an easy solution in modern media? This is never that. But there's a constant effort in that direction, and I think that is infinitely more effective.
And I think Carmy sort of is not final, but most recent for us, not confrontation, but interaction with his mom, with Donna, at the end of season 4. That's the same day that he announces that he's going to leave, right? So I think that is sort of the first time those two characters have understood, maybe not fully, but started to maybe understand that they're very similar to each other, like more than anybody else in the family, even though they've been the most distant. I mean, they haven't had a one-on-one conversation until season 4 at the wedding, and that lasts 2 seconds. They don't have a real conversation until this final episode.
And even that's mostly about him cooking.
Right. But I mean, she does have her whole apology, but she doesn't say it right. She's like, I didn't even read half of this, but she writes, I'm sorry, 1,000,000 times on the paper. Like, I think for Carmy, that is him recognizing that he's like his mom. And I think that scares him. But I think also he sees how much Donna is really trying right now, and how, like, whether it's successful or not, she is really trying. And I think that for him is the tipping point of, I think I need to leave this restaurant and do something else. And in the process, try to work through my own stuff, which involves understanding Mikey. And so I think that all wraps up and ties together nicely.
Before we move into some final thoughts on this theory and seasons 3 and 4 in general, if people are enjoying this discussion and want more of this type of analysis of art and popular culture, where would you point them, Meg?
I would point them to our Patreon, friends. We have a Patreon. It's a lovely place to be. Over there, we put out 2 new bonus episodes every single month, sometimes more. And the Patreon's $2 a month. But on those bonus episodes, often they are the Breakfast Buffet series, which is a series where every episode is a collection of artworks that we talk about all together in conversation, whether it's movies or TV or books or, all the things we talk about on the show, they're over there as well. But they're things that we don't cover on the regular show, and they're really, really fun. There are also some other fun, like, kind of silly games over there, other playful episodes. The Patreon is a really nice place to be. We really appreciate our patron support.
Separate mention, we also did an episode about Succession a couple years ago that I called The Many Deaths of Logan Roy, which was kind of hitting a similar thread to what we're exploring here.
And that's just a regular episode. It's not a Patreon episode. But yeah.
It just felt like the right moment.
Yeah, so check it out.
To kind of zoom out again a little further here, this show means a lot to me. I asked you the other day, like, what's the best show since Breaking Bad? Because that was kind of when we came online with loving our shows for ourselves. And I think it's Breaking Bad, Succession, The Bear.
Yeah.
Am I missing anything? Hill House, I guess. It's a limited series. Kind of a different thing.
And Game of Thrones seasons 1 through 4. But
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, this feels as rock solid as Succession did. And yes. I mean, the comparison's not the point. The point is that the show means a lot to me, more than any other show currently airing.
Same.
It's the character work. It's the performances are unbelievable. And I think it's the writing. And that's what I've heard the most critique about. Do you want to respond to the idea that nothing happens in seasons 3 and 4? Because I've had so many people say to me, and I've seen online so many people say this one thing. How do you feel about that idea, having just seen seasons 3 and 4?
I'm bamboozled by that critique. So, we had seen seasons 1 and 2, and we had heard people kind of didn't love season 3 and had mixed feelings about season 4. And I think that's why it took us so long to watch seasons 3 and 4, because we were afraid that we would no longer like our beloved show. Of course, we were very wrong, and we love it even more now. But I mean, the thing is, every season is really different. Like, seasons 2 and 1 are very different from one another, and season 3 is doing a different thing, and season 4 is doing a different thing. I think this show continues to be experimental and playful in its style and its structure and its how fast the plot moves, because like season 1 is like absolute chaos, boom boom boom, shit's happening all the time. Carmy just got back, we're like establishing a lot of things. Season 2 is we're building the restaurant. That's the arc of season 2, is we are rebuilding, we're turning the beef into the bear, and we're doing that. And so there's a lot of plot in season 2, but there's also a whole episode where Marcus is just in Copenhagen, and we're just exploring him and meeting Luca.
Yeah,
is
Will
that his
Poulter's
name?
character.
Yeah, right. Eyebrows. Like, we're meeting him. I love him. I love that
Me
actor.
too. Unbelievable.
But like, so, and like, there's a whole episode of Sydney where it's just us kind of following her around and learning about her mom and her dad and this coach that she loves. Like, the show, even though it's like presentation of plot and like movement of plot varies so much, it is always character first. Always.
The Tina episode.
Right. And forks and fishes and all of these great episodes in season 2. Like this, people saying nothing happens in seasons 3 and 4. We would joke every time we would watch an episode, like we'd finish an episode that was like earth shattering, the most like incredible character exploration we've ever seen. We would just go, God, I can't believe nothing happens in this season. Because there is plot that happens.
Weddings, funerals, deadlines with the restaurant,
major
reviews.
crash outs. Like,
yeah.
Things happen. I mean, Natalie has a fucking baby. Like, things happen in this
Ice
series.
chips.
Like, I guess if you zoom out and break it down, the amount of time that seasons 3 and 4 cover is not that long. But the place that we start at the beginning of season 3 compared to where we are at the end of season 4 in terms of character, we have traveled miles. We have gone on an Odyssey journey. Like, I was gonna say Odyssean, whatever. We have traversed land in that sense.
Time.
In that sense, yes. So that's just like media literacy at its absolute worst, is not understanding that a show doesn't have to just be about plot happens.
I think in most mainstream entertainment, plot is the engine.
Yeah.
And I think this show is increasingly uninterested in mainstream appeal.
Yeah.
As it delves deeper and deeper into these labyrinthine, impossible characters, it's more doing the thing I love. The thing I loved about watching these two seasons, sorry, got British for a second.
These two series.
Back to back.
2 series in it. I'm sorry.
It's the theatricality.
Yeah.
It's the simplicity. Because the best episodes of this show, and especially of these seasons, are two people talking or arguing for half an hour. And I could watch that shit forever.
Me too.
I am endlessly moved by these characters, endlessly affected by this writing. And from a level of craft, I'm so inspired by this work of art. Writing, directing, acting. It is unreal. I think it is, by a country mile, the best work being done on television.
Absolutely. Yes. Like, I think a good example to help it kind of understand the plot versus character thing happening. The finale of season 2 is Carmy getting stuck in a fridge. On a plot level, that's funny for 5 minutes, and then it's not that interesting. It would only become plot interesting if the building caught on fire, or it was absolutely necessary that Carmy be out of the fridge to answer a question or to make a dish for somebody who arrived. Like, you could make that plot interesting, but instead, him being stuck in the fridge serves his character, and he says really shitty things, and he hurts people while in there, and he sort of like, I don't know, goes through a like, I don't know, like dream-induced like character journey within that fridge. Like, that's what it's about. So you can look at the finale of season 2 as, well, nothing really happens, but so much happens. It's just Carmy stuck in a fridge, but there's so much more going on beyond that.
I think increasingly this show is reminding me of The Sopranos, which could never be an insult. But I think more and more character work, more and more emotional complexity and malaise within your principal cast, a loss of purpose, kind of an unmoored feeling that's driving toward, it feels like it's driving towards this tragic conclusion that characters are scrabbling to avoid. And I think that's Carmy hitting that breaking point at the end of season 4.
Yeah. And even in one of the biggest arcs of season 4 is the restaurant is not doing well enough and they're going to run out of money. And they put up this big clock that's counting down, and the finale of season 4 is the day that the clock runs out. But oddly enough, that is not the most important thing happening in season 4. What's important is what's happening with the characters and how this, countdown clock affects them personally and interpersonally. But it's not like the end of season 4 isn't we run out of money and the restaurant's closed and the timer's done. It's Carmy's leaving the restaurant, and that's awful. Like, it's,
the restaurant will survive. But do we want, was that the,
but does that even matter? Yeah.
In the same way, like the first episode of The Sopranos is Tony saying he has this bad feeling that he came in at the end of things. That's the whole arc of season 4 is this ticking clock. We're doing like a 24 level conceit with time ticking down.
Right.
And it's not a bomb is going to go off and everyone's going to die. And at the end, we figure out it's kind of a ship of Theseus thing of the restaurant will probably survive, but Carmy won't be there. Is that better or worse? Is that unthinkable? There are no easy answers.
Yeah.
There's no easy structure.
Yeah.
But it all feels I feel so emotionally locked in.
Absolutely.
To every second of this drama.
And if you think about an episode like Fishes, which is a full flashback episode, technically the plot doesn't move forward at all in that episode because we're going back years and just re-examining, a really horrible event that takes place at the holidays. But it's so important for moving the characters and for us understanding them and understanding what they're dwelling on and understanding why a lot of them are the way that they are. Like, that's what's important. The plot doesn't move an inch in that episode, but the characters do. And that's what's, I think, way more important. And that's my kind of show, man. I love this show. What a show. It's so good.
I can't wait for it to come back. And honestly, I would watch this forever.
I know. And I'm sad that we have to wait a long time, but it's really good and so well deserved of the hype and the Emmys. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful show.
I mean, I wish John Bernthal had an Emmy for supporting. I just think his work is incredible. He continues to exist as this linchpin of this series and kind of guide its navigation through death, at least in my eyes. Yeah. Unbelievable work.
This is I appreciate that we had time to talk about this because we really haven't talked about The Bear and it's been so important for us. So I'm glad we got to talk about it here.
What do you think of this theory? What do you think of seasons 3 and 4? What do you think of this critique that nothing happens? What do you think of plot versus character? Totally open in the comments, in the email, where do you plug the Patreon? Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much. Also, be sure to check out Cam's latest book, Lemon Tarts in Space. If you like anything Cam has said, if you like the way he thinks about death or grief, for example, may I recommend this book. It's a light sci-fi dark comedy. It's all about cancer and grief and friendship and death. It's really, really a wonderful, wonderful book. It'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry. It's excellent. You can read it as a regular novel, or you can check out the fully produced audio drama, which is a really, really fun experience. Cam did such a wonderful job on all of this. The links to purchase and listen to that are in the description. Thank you very much for your support. Let us know what you thought of this, like, subscribe, etc., and we'll catch you next time with a brand new episode.